Hello and welcome back for another episode of Line Check. So today here in episode 5, I took some time and caught up with a friend of mine, with Cody Paige, who is the drummer of Famous Last Words. Famous Last Words has an upcoming EP release that they recently did out in Arizona with the producer Matt Good, who is the producer behind Ask Alexandria's latest record. Of the songs that have been released so far, they're really, really awesome. I've really enjoyed listening and checking those out. So I strongly recommend you check out those tracks if you're unfamiliar with the band, but I'm sure a lot of you on my channel know exactly who this band is because they're one of the older, more familiar names in the metalcore scene. So yeah, I really hope you enjoy my conversation with Cody Paige, the drummer from Famous Last Words. All right, so first of all, thank you so much, Cody, for agreeing to do this with me today.
Thank you so much for having me, bro. I'm excited, man.
All right, well, let's talk you joining the band, because you're not the original drummer. Whenabouts did your relationship sort of start with Famous Last Words?
So it was probably near the end of, probably middle to the end of 2017. Our guitar player, Evan, him and myself both live in Tampa area, and we had some mutual friends, and they kind of started looking for a new drummer, and he kind of got in touch with me through a couple mutual friends. They kind of sent me to him, and we just started chatting, and I agreed to do a tour with them. It was October of 2017, and it was the first time I had met any of the guys. I flew up to Michigan, that's where the band is from, and met everybody, rehearsed for a few days, and then we went off and did this tour, and it ended up, going really well, and they had me back, and here I am almost 2 years later.
Hell yeah, dude. So you said you're from Tampa, and then, so where's everybody from? Because I know the band originally was from Michigan, right?
Yeah. So it's a small town in northern Michigan called Petoskey, and it's basically almost Canada. So it's super cold up there, and the band started up there. JT, our singer, he's like the main original member, and then our now bass player Tyler, they both live up there. And then myself and our guitar player, Evan, live down here, and we just commute back and forth and fly up and fly home, and to do rehearsals and tours and everything. So
when you head up there for a tour, do you guys drive up or do you fly?
No, we'll fly. Usually, Evan and myself will either get the same flight or two different flights depending on what's going on. He's actually out right now on a tour, so he's going to meet us over there, and then I'm just going to fly straight up from here. First week of May, I'll be flying up there.
How do you handle getting your gear or your portion of the backline up to the band?
That's a good question, actually, because if you see behind me here, this is actually my drum kit. But when we tour, it's pretty expensive to ship drums, as you probably know. So I actually use a kit that they have up there. It's an SJC custom kit. And it sounds killer, man. I really don't mind playing it at all. It's a little different than what I'm used to, but it's great. So I fly up, I bring my cymbals, sticks, my pedal, my in-ears, and then I just play their kit. And so I bring as much as I can without going overboard on the heavy baggage charges with Southwest and Delta, whatever. So yeah.
Do you bring your own snare?
On the last tour I did, because it was a bigger tour that we did. It was a support tour. And it was like a 6-week long tour, and the other bands were awesome, and I kind of wanted to at least have that little bit of my own kit up there, in my snare. I love it, so I ended up shipping it up there, and I used it on the last tour. But they have a few snares up there that also are great, so I use those depending on the tour.
Okay, cool. So while we're on the topic of gear, like why don't you just take me through what's behind you?
Yeah, so this is a Tama Star Classic Babinga. It's a Babinga Elite, and it's, I believe, 7-ply Babinga, 1 outer ply of quilted Babinga. And it came with the 10 and 12-inch toms. I only use the 12-inch tom. I love this setup. I play Sabian cymbals, mostly AAX up here. Got the Holy China over on the other side. Remo heads, Vic First sticks. Specifically the X55B model, Tama hardware, Iron Cobra pedals. Been playing Tama forever, been playing Sabian forever. So I love the way my kit sounds right now and how it's set up, and it just works really well. So
How long have you been on the Iron Cobra pedals?
Dude, forever. I think I got my first Iron Cobra in like 2007, and I had that one for probably about 10 years. I used it on countless tours and studio stuff, and it lasted for a long time, and then just kind of started to, it didn't really break, it just kind of started to wear down a little bit. Just started to rust just from wear and tear, so I ended up kind of getting the same one a couple years ago, just replacing it. But I basically played the same pedal, same settings for the last like 12, 13 years.
Yeah, I find a lot of guys go back to the Iron Cobra at some point, especially if they've been on it and then they try another pedal. It's something I very frequently hear people come back to.
Exactly. I mean, I've tried, the DW9000s. I used to hate them, and then I worked at Guitar Center for a couple years, and I would sit down and just play like the floor models, and for the longest time I just didn't really like those pedals, but then I kind of grew into them a little bit. But the Thomas, the Iron Cobras, the Speed Cobras are good. I know you play those, don't you? The Speed Cobras?
Yeah, I play the Speed Cobra 910s.
Yeah. So the regular Iron Cobras are just, for me, those are the best feeling pedals and just what I'm used to. So, but yeah, I've tried the longboards. I've tried the tricks and the Axis and the direct drives, and they're okay. But I just, that feel of the double chain drive pedal Iron Cobra, just for me personally, it doesn't get any better. So,
what version of the Iron Cobra are you on? Are you on like the newest one with the rubber beaters?
Yeah, it's the I got this one in 2016, and I think it had just come out. It's the Iron Cobra Rolling Glide, 910, I believe, 900 or 910.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
I actually put wood beaters on these though. It gives it a little extra thump and a little extra, bottom end to it, especially playing metal and stuff. Just try to get as much power as I can. So, but yeah, the regular beaters that come with it are awesome. I just throw the wood beaters on there and rock and roll.
So yeah, while we're there, let's just segue right on into how you set up your kick for live. So do you trigger your kick? Do you mic it? Do you blend the two? How do you handle that?
So what we do is our guitar player, Evan, he kind of will, stage manage, and he'll run, do sound. He does a bunch of different stuff, but he kind of has a good way of setting up the mics. We bring our own mics when we tour and everything, so everything's the same every night. So it sounds consistent. But yeah, we do. I believe the last tour we were running a Shure 91. I believe it's like the flat, kind of real super flat one. You just set it right in the kick drum.
Oh yeah, incredibly clicky, right?
Yeah. It gives it a little click, and then I think we had a Beta 52, and then last tour I think we switched to an Audix D6. Oh, okay. And yeah, we were just basically blending the two of them. Yeah, so it sounds good. Sounds really good. I'm not too much of a trigger guy. I'm not opposed to it, but I don't really have to. So I kind of, unless I have to do it, I prefer not to.
Yeah, you know what? I don't know what it is about like the word triggers. It's like there's this stigma around somebody saying like, yeah, I trigger my kid or something. That's what it seems like. Right. And I think a lot of guys think that. I think it's because of like what triggers originally kind of were used for, and like you're probably referencing that when you talk about like you try not to, because that's true. Like a lot of guys back in the day used to trigger just for the sake of being able to reduce the amount of space between the beater and the head, and then they could play super soft, and then the trigger would take care of it for the player. But more and more, I mean, you probably even see this out on the road. And like when I talked to Jared, he was talking about kind of the same thing, which is bands like Architects, August Burns Red, they all seem to be doing this mix where they're playing the kick drum, but they need that trigger just to like fill out the higher like click and make it more dominant almost. Yeah,
of course. I mean, that's the other thing too. It's like I have a few friends that play like, super heavy, like more on the death metal side, and they'll always do like they'll do half trigger, half Audix D6, or just any kick drum mic for that matter, and they'll blend the two. So half triggered, half natural kick sound, and that sounds great. But yeah, I think what you're saying is like, a lot of people used to think triggers were like cheating or like, making you play faster or whatever, and that's not really the case. It's more of a sound preference, and depending on the room and everything too. So no, triggers are fine. I'm not opposed at all. I just never really started using them. So, but maybe in the future, who knows.
So how do you handle like the rest of your kit? Like just a 57 on the snare? Like what do you do for the rest of your mic set?
Yeah, usually we'll do like a 57 or a kind of a standard snare, 58 maybe. And then we'll do, I believe the toms, we usually always run Sennheiser E604s because they're pretty small. They stay out of the way. I don't like hit them or anything. And then, I think, I can't remember the specific overheads, but I'll just run like 2 overheads. Last tour, I think we were doing them underneath the 2 crashes here. And it was kind of, instead of having those big overheads hanging down over you, we kind of try to be discreet about, where we mount the mics. But pretty standard setup for me, actually.
Do you mic your hi-hat?
Depends. I don't think we were doing that. We weren't doing that on the last tour. It depends. Like if we have a headline tour and we can bring out some more stuff, some more production and stuff, and take our time like setting up, we will do that. We'll mic like the ride and the hi-hat and do those extra little mics placed around the kit. But if we're doing like a support tour where we have 10 minutes to set up and get everything up there, usually we'll try to just use the minimum without cutting corners and without sacrificing sound. So yeah.
And then what does so do you play the stock snare that came with the Star Classic, or do you have like a different line snare?
Yeah, I right now on this kit, and this is a snare I used on the last tour. It's the same thing. I actually got it separately, but it matches the kit. So when I bought the kit originally, it was only the toms and kick drum and the floor toms, and then I ended up finding the matching snare. Got a pretty good deal on it. So this is honestly, man, probably my favorite snare I've ever played. It's just so loud and got just such a nice crack. And then I found like the perfect combination of drum heads for it. It's awesome. So it sounds great. But no, I have another snare from my other kit that I started playing back in high school. It's a Tama Birch, Star Classic Birch, and it sounds great. So I'll usually won't rotate though. I usually always use this snare for everything.
What are the dimensions on your main snare?
This one's a 14x6. Yeah, again, Babinga, same setup. So,
right on, man. True. Well, okay, so let's talk about what's next for the band. I know that you have a couple singles out, and we have a release coming up, right?
Yes, correct. So we have we recorded it's an EP. It's not a full length record, and I also wanted to clarify this too. There's a lot of people that have been asking and kind of wondering. It's not a concept record. We kind of veered away from that a little bit. This time we did a 5-song EP, and it's more of a personal kind of storytelling, more relatable stuff that kind of we went through in our own lives, and our singer, wrote most of this, and it's awesome. We love it. It's some of the best stuff that we've ever written, it drops May 17th. It comes out. You can pre-order it right now. It's available for pre-order. We have 3 singles up, Runaways, No Walls, and The Game. We released all 3 singles recently, and they've been doing very well. They've been streaming super well. So yeah, thank you to everyone who's been, downloading and streaming and buying and checking out the new singles. So yeah.
So who will this release be with? Are you guys currently signed?
Yeah, we've been on a couple different labels. Our newest release is going to come out under a new label, SBG, which is Shandan Haran. He was with Outer Loop and Artery for a while, so he's a well-respected, well-known guy in the genre, and he's so cool. He's been just helping us tremendously and doing such a great job helping us get this release going and promoting it and everything. And so yeah, it's through his label, and then of course we have management and everybody else helping out as well. So yeah.
Right on. What were some of the past labels that you guys were affiliated with? Because I remember, like you said, there's been a few, right?
Yeah. There's been, the last one was a label called Revival Recordings. And then there was one before that. This is long before I was in the band, so let me try to remember.
Was it In Vogue?
Yes, In Vogue. Thank you. Brain fart in there for a second. But yeah, In Vogue was like the first label. And then Revival, the last full length, the Incubus came out on Revival, and then contract just kind of was up at the time, and we just did what we felt was right, and kind of went with a little different direction with the new label. But everything's been great. We're super happy, so it's all going very well.
Hell yeah, that's awesome. Yeah, I discovered the band during the Council of the Dead cycle in 2014. And I think you guys were on In Vogue at the time because I think I found you off their roster.
Yeah, I believe it was the first record. So there's an EP that came out long time ago, and then the first full length, Two Face Charade and Council of the Dead were both on In Vogue, and then Revival was the Incubus. So, but yes, those two albums were on In Vogue.
And all those records were concept records, right?
Correct. Yeah, the first EP was not, and then the first full length, we decided to go kind of concept direction, short story type of thing, and so Two Face Charade, Council of the Dead, and the Incubus are all concept records. All tell a pretty cool story. And people seem to like that, and we like that too. But like I said, we just kind of switched it up for this new release.
So what made you guys decide to go move away from the concept space and sort of just write about your experiences?
The band's been through a lot in the last few years, and I mean specifically like lineup changes, label changes, things like that. Some stuff behind the scenes, just a lot of stuff going on and a lot of different things happening. And I think it was just kind of time, we kind of sat down and talked about it. And I think it was just kind of time to switch it up a little bit, kind of been doing the same formula for years and years in the last 3 records. And it just felt right to kind of change direction a little bit since everything else was kind of changing, new members and stuff. So we kind of like a fresh start, just a 180, starting over type of thing. And, like I said, so far we're very happy with the decision. So
now, you guys mentioned that there's some sort of hidden message inside of Runaways, right?
Yes, that's you'll have to listen to it. I don't want to give it away or anything. We kind of trying to let people kind of figure that out, see if they can catch on to it before we just kind of come out and say it. But yes, there is. So we'll leave that to the imagination.
Before coming on to do this interview, I was talking to one of my patrons, and I know specifically Brian, who's one of the guys that I hang out with on our server. He's a huge fan of the band, and he wanted
awesome.
He wanted me to grill you on the meaning behind that song. I guess I'll just leave it there and respect the secret.
Yeah, I think JT actually posted something recently, like a picture, and it was like, a picture of like the Arizona album cover with the little Runaways, and it was like, has anyone been able to figure out the meaning behind Runaways yet? So we'll do that sometimes and just let the comments fill up with different stuff, and then we'll go read them and see if anybody nails it. But
has anybody gotten it?
You know what? I haven't even checked that post, to be honest with you. I've been kind of busy running around lately, but I don't know, actually. Now that you mention that, I'm going to go look at it later and see if anybody guessed it.
Right on. All right, so let's talk about you before the band. What are some of the past projects that you sort of came from?
So, I mean, I grew up here in Tampa, specifically Clearwater area, and I just started playing drums early on and started playing in local bands when I was, 14, 15. So high school, did a bunch of local bands around here with some really good friends from high school and different guys, and just kept at it. And then I actually posted a cover, like the first cover I posted on YouTube. And it was a cover of a song called That Fire from a band called Black Tide.
Oh, I love Black Tide.
Yeah, and then they found that cover, and I ended up joining the band like a few years later. And then I played with them, toured with them, did a record with them. I was in the band for about 2 years, and then ended up parting ways. No bad blood or anything, just time to kind of move on a little bit. Still cool with those dudes. Still talk to some of them. And then I joined Famous, like I was telling you earlier, middle to end of 17, September, October. So yeah, I kind of went from Black Tide. I had a little bit of time off from touring. So I was kind of searching for another band, and that's when I kind of, got in touch with Evan and started talking to him. So, excuse me, but yeah, local bands for years and years and years. I've done some drum tech work, done, some studio work. Mainly I try to tour though. That's my favorite, aspect of it. But yeah, so Black Tide and Famous Last Words are where most people kind of know me from. So yeah.
Dude, that's amazing you were in Black Tide. I didn't know that you had drummed for them.
Yeah, that's again, it was kind of like the band had kind of parted ways, and like half the band had left. The drummer and bass player had left, so we got a new bass player at the time. His name was Ronnie. Shout out Ronnie if you see this, miss you, buddy. He came in, started playing bass. He was a friend of our singer Gabe's, and then, like I said, they found me on YouTube, contacted me. Actually, Ronnie contacted me, and I had no clue who he was. I didn't know who he was. I was friends with him on Facebook, and I was like, I got a message from him one day, and I was like, I had no clue. So I click on it, and it was him, and he's like, hey man, I'm playing bass in Black Tide now. We're looking for a new drummer. We saw your cover. Would you be interested in coming to jam? So this was like end of 2013, so November, around Christmas time. And I drove down to Miami, and it's about a 5-hour drive from where I live. So I just packed up all my shit, drove down there, super excited. And I got there, and we jammed for a little bit. I learned like 3 songs. And it went well. And then like a week later, they texted me like, hey man, do you want to join the band? So I said yes. And then that was that. So yeah.
Yeah. I'm blown away. I feel like that band should have had, I feel like they were very underrated. Like I feel like they deserved a much bigger following than what they got. They were pretty big in their time though, like at their prime.
Yeah, that's the thing. I mean, when the band started, like Gabriel, like I said, singer, he was like 13, 14 when the band started like blowing up. So he was like super young and like kind of missed out. He didn't like, go through like high school and stuff because the band was touring and doing like Warped Tour and Mayhem Festival and all these like touring with like Avenged Sevenfold and like opening for Iron Maiden. So the band, did really well. And like I said, just, some things behind the scenes, some just different directions and stuff. So, the band kind of just parted ways, and then he kept it going and tried to kind of, reform it. And that's when I came in and so kind of just switched the lineup, and, toured a little bit, did a record, toured a little bit more. And then, like I said, I kind of just, figured it would be best to kind of go my own direction and, kind of just move on. But yeah, I had a great time in that band. I still talk to Austin Diaz, shout out to him too, if he sees this. But yeah, we keep in touch, and they're still cool dudes, and yeah, so.
Yeah, I remember watching interviews like years ago where they were talking about the fact that like they would play venues that weren't all ages, and like they would all have to get walked in. They'd play their set, and then they would get walked out, kind of thing.
Yeah. Yeah, well, like I said, it's like half the band or most of the band. I mean, it's so long ago now, but yeah, they were like so young. It's like Gabriel's dad would come on tour and come along because he couldn't get into like certain venues and stuff. So, and his dad is cool as hell too. So, yeah, he had to have like an adult, like a supervision, I guess. Playing in a rock and roll band, you need supervision, but it's all good, man. Yeah, they made it work, so it's good, man.
That's pretty funny. That's pretty awesome. Yeah. Good for them for making it so soon. All right, so let's talk about Clearwater. You lived there your whole life, pretty much?
Yeah. I was born and raised, born down here, in I don't live in Clearwater now. I grew up there. I live about an hour and 20 minutes north of Clearwater. But yeah, I was born down here, went to school right by the beach and everything. And yeah, man, it's cool. Florida's got a cool scene too. There's a lot of bands that come out of Florida. Even metal bands, like I said, Black Tide was one of them. Trivium is from Orlando. Shinedown is from like Jacksonville. So I mean, there's some really awesome bands that have come out of the state. So I'm super proud to be from here and be born and raised and live here. And it gets too hot, but other than that, it's cool. I don't mind it at all. So. Yeah,
Florida has a really great scene. There's a lot of great producers that came out of Florida as well.
Yep, absolutely.
Like Andrew Wade, I think. Does Andrew Wade currently live in Florida?
Good question. I thought he did.
I think he does, yeah.
Yeah, I think you're right. I'm trying to think of who. I know Jason Sukoff is in Orlando area, I believe, and he's done like all kinds of like Job for a Cowboy and like Whitechapel type stuff, super heavy stuff. But yeah, man, there's a lot of producers, bands, just industry people in general in Florida. So it's very cool to be from here.
Who handles all the lyrics when it comes to writing?
That's pretty much a JT thing. Evan will do a lot of the guitar work. Just like riffs and stuff. and JT, yeah, JT's kind of mainly always been the lyrical guy and the storytelling guy, and he's great at that. He does a great job. He's a super talented guy, and yeah, he's usually always the one handling the lyrics, but what the stuff he writes, I love it. So I mean, I really don't even. I'm like, yeah, that's awesome. I love it. So it's a pretty easy process, but yeah, he usually handles most of that stuff.
You mentioned that like this latest release is coming up. It has like a lot of lyrical content that is to depict some of like the past experiences among members. How do you guys go about like communicating those things to JT to put into lyrical form?
You know, I've never been much of a like lyrical writer guy, but I've always had like ideas and stuff. So I mean, you know, honestly, we'll group chat or we'll like FaceTime or whatever, or, you know, while we're on tour, we'll come up with ideas and exchange ideas. And, you know, JT, he's got a side project too that he's doing now called Postscript, which is really cool. But yeah, I mean, we'll just bounce ideas off each other via text or call or in person on tour, and kind of just keep those ideas. We'll write them down or whatever, and then go back to those later on when it comes time to write and pull ideas from you know, past ideas for new music, or we'll, you know, kind of start writing on the spot and combine the two. So yeah.
So I know that you guys at one point, I think it was during the Council of the Dead cycle, you worked with Joey Sturgis on that?
Correct. Yeah, that was before I was in the band, but yes, I think Joey Sturgis was. You'd have to ask JT that question, but yeah, they did work with Joey Sturgis on one record. Yeah, I want to say it was Two-Face Charade, but it might be Council.
Okay, all right. So what are some of the other producers that you've worked with since? And more importantly, who'd you go to for this latest release?
So the latest release, and probably our favorite, to be honest with you, we recorded this EP with Matt Good out in Arizona. And for those of you who don't know, he does a lot of work with like Asking Alexandria, stuff, you know, Bless the Fall, bands like that, bands that are in our genre. Yeah, he killed it, man. He's awesome, cool dude. Did a great job. Like I said, just another aspect of the new record that we're very happy with was the recording process in itself was just smooth. I mean, we came in and you know, ended up scrapping some old ideas and then rewrote a bunch of stuff kind of there on the spot, and it all kind of fell together and turned out really, really well. So it was nice to have a smooth recording process instead of like struggling and coming up with this idea, but then it's not working. It literally kind of just fell into place, and we were in and out of there pretty quickly. So yeah, we did the last couple songs we recorded like a week before we started the last tour. So we flew out to Arizona, recorded the last little bits, and then immediately went into a 6-week tour. But we got it done, and like I said, we're super stoked. So
was it one continuous session, or was there multiple trips out?
I believe it was two. Yeah, it was 2 trips. We started recording a few months before we got the last tour offer, and then they came back, and then we went back out there to finish it right before the last tour, just because he has other clients and stuff that come in and record. So we took the 2 spots that we could get, and so yeah, it was like out there, came home, and then went back out, finished it, and done. So it was really cool.
Matt Good, that name is something I'm hearing more and more of these days in the industry. He did, correct me if I'm wrong, but didn't he do the latest Asking release?
I believe so. Yeah, I think that's what I'm saying. He does a lot of stuff with them. I believe he did their latest record too. And that's another thing too. Like out there, it's like the Phoenix, Mesa, Arizona area. A lot of guys live out there too. Some producers and a lot of guys. Some of the guys from Escape the Fate live out there. I believe some of the Asking guys live out there too. But yeah, that's where his studio is located. So yeah, I think he does a lot of work with them because they kind of all live right in that area. But yeah, he's killer, man. We loved working with him.
So what's your relationship to Escape the Fate?
We just did a tour with them back in September, October, called the Beautiful Human Tour, and it was Escape the Fate, Slaves, us, a band called Picturesque, and another band from LA called Set to Stun, and that was an awesome tour. That was the last tour we did. We've kind of been home since. and it was sick, man. That was like the first support tour we've done in a long time. We had done a bunch of headlining tours on the last record cycle, and we wanted to pick up something that was like, a band's a little bigger than us, and get kind of that middle slot. And we ended up playing third every night on that tour, and it was sick, man. We had a blast on that tour. But yeah, I got to meet those guys, and they were really cool. I just saw them last night, actually, over here in Orlando. They played at the Hard Rock, and yeah, they've been one of my favorite bands for a long time. So when we got that tour, it was really cool to be able to experience that and kind of check that off the bucket list, and hang out with them and watch them play every night was really cool. So yeah.
Yeah, that's why I ask, because I saw your story on Instagram, and I guess you were side stage, and I was curious if you were just sort of spectating or if you were involved with like teching or something along those lines.
No, they just did a tour with Attila and All That Remains, and the last show was in Orlando last night. So we went out there and just hung out, and I got to see them briefly and say what's up, and but yeah, no, I was just hanging out, partying, having a good time.
Sure, right on. Was it a North American run that you went on with them?
Yes, yeah, it was a full North American tour, and then there were 2 Canada dates. Funny enough, half of our band couldn't get into Canada, so we ended up doing, myself and JT were the only 2 that could get in, and we ended up doing all the other bands, everyone else except I think one of the guys from Slaves couldn't get in. So half our band couldn't get in, so we ended up doing, myself and JT doing an acoustic set for both Canada shows, and I played like a tambourine, and he just sang, and it was actually really cool. It was awesome. Like, we came out, and like there's no drums, there's no like amps, there's no nothing. I just plopped down my seat with a tambourine on it in the middle of the stage in front of 500 people, whatever, and they're all kind of like looking around like, what the hell is this, what's going on? And then we sat down and we played a few acoustic versions of our own songs, and then JT came up with the idea of doing a cover of Hello by Adele, and he like mashed up the lyrics and made it sound like sorry for like half our band can't get into Canada and whatever, and there's videos of it on YouTube. It was really funny, but everybody actually ended up really enjoying that, and it was very cool, interesting, a little different, but it was fun. It was a nice little change of pace. It was only for like 2 days, so, and then we came back to the States. So,
what were the Canada? What cities were they in Canada?
First show we played was Quebec City, which is absolutely beautiful. I loved it there. We walked around, and that was the first time I've really been there. And we explored in a beautiful city, super gorgeous weather when we were up there. And then I believe the second show was Ontario. Yeah, where was the second show?
London?
No. I can't really look because I can't really pull up my phone because I got you mounted on FaceTime now. But yeah, it was Quebec City was first. Quebec City was awesome. And then
was it like Toronto, one of the bigger cities, or
you know what? It might have been Toronto.
Okay.
I think it was. And yeah, it was just 2 Canada shows. Quebec City, Toronto, and they were both good. Like I said, they both had a good response, and yeah, even to the acoustic stuff, they enjoyed that. So yeah, it was cool.
So what did the other guys get up to while they waited? I guess a couple days.
Yeah, they just we had a merch guy, Andrew, out on tour with us, and so him and our other 2 guys that couldn't get in, I think they just stayed somewhere in like Michigan, somewhere close to the border where we would be coming back. And they took the van and trailer. We rode on Slave's bus, and yeah, they just kind of hung out for a couple days. Got to like a hotel, and they just kind of had no option. They kind of just had to wait, unfortunately, and wait for us to come back through. And then we resumed the tour like normal, and I got to play drums again, and it was nice. So
you need one of those boxes, a cajon or whatever.
Yeah, a little cajon. Those are cool. Yeah, for sure. Maybe next time. Maybe if we do an acoustic show again, I can play one of those.
Yeah, those are fun, actually.
They are very fun. Yeah, like I said, when I used to work at Guitar Center, they had a ton of them, and I would sit down and just play all of them like in a row and listen to the different sounds and different tones that you can get out of them. And they're very neat, very very cool instrument.
So when it comes to this latest record, I guess like really this is the first time you've been part of the band during like the recording and writing of a cycle.
Yeah, I kind of, like I said, they had wrote a bunch of stuff kind of before I was like, when I started out, I wasn't really in the band. I kind of was like more of a session guy, just kind of doing the tours. And then kind of during this last full tour that we did, we kind of like talked about me being a full-time member, and that's when that kind of happened. So before that, I wasn't actually part of the band, so I did not get the chance to really record or write on this last release. Like I said, there was so much going on and lineup changes and just all kinds of stuff. But yeah, I was part of it, but I wasn't necessarily fully part of this release. But I was there for all of the recording and everything, but yeah, so hope maybe the next record I can be fully committed to that one. But
did you take part at all in like the tracking, or was it all like MIDI for this record?
No, there was a session guy that came in and did it. So a guy that lives out there. His name is Matt Horn. He actually plays in the Word Alive.
Yeah.
And he's like a session guy at the studio where we recorded at with Matt Good. So he came out and just like boom, 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 hammered out the drums like because we were very, very limited on time. So he came out before I was like part of the band, before I got out there, and he tracked all the drums. And then I came out and I started the tour with them, and I had to learn some of the new stuff. But yeah, he's a killer drummer, and he did a great job coming up. He came up with some really cool parts that I enjoy playing, so it's fun.
Oh, so I guess like those singles you played on the last run?
Yeah. So the last tour we played No Walls and The Game. We did not play Runaways, but we may or may not play that on the next tour. Again, you'll have to come out to a show and see, but it's a possibility. So.
Where's the next run? Is it another North American? Yeah, I guess so. North American, because
yeah. We're gonna start. I believe it's in Kentucky, Covington, Kentucky. I think is the first show, and it's cool, man. It's us, a band called Dayshell, Awake at Last, and At My Mercy are the other two bands. So we got 3 bands coming out with us. This is gonna be a headline tour for us. So we're gonna play a little bit longer of a set list, and have a little bit of fun. But yeah, it's mostly an East Coast run. We go up to like New York and we go out to Texas, basically everywhere except super far west. So it's about a almost 4 week tour. So yeah, it should be super fun. I've been sitting home for too long, so I'm looking forward to getting back out.
Yeah, that's always the worst part, is between tours.
Yeah, and like I said, the last tour we did was October of last year, so it's now April. So yeah, we've kind of been sitting home. With a lot of time off. So yeah, I'm excited, man. Ready to get back out there.
When you're not on the road, when you're at home for like that amount of time, what kind of things do you do at home? Do you do session work in the area, or?
Yeah, I try to stay as busy as I can. I'm always open to doing other tours with other artists and doing fill-in stuff or session work. Lately I haven't been doing a lot of that stuff. It's just hard sometimes because I try to figure out like what our schedule is, and then, another tour or something will come up, but it like interferes with our tour. So it's kind of hard to plan those and constantly be on the road and make it home in time to rehearse for our tour and do this and that. But yeah, I try to stay as busy as I can with any of that type of stuff. But yeah, this time, before this tour, I haven't done too much, so I've kind of just been home working and kind of waiting for this tour to start. But yeah, I'm absolutely always looking for other work. So,
all right. So when you first joined the band and you were tasked with learning all of these songs for these tours, something I've been talking about a lot lately with some of the students that I work with is how to go about like really learning a song and learning it note for note. When you had to step into learning all these tracks from this band that's fairly established, what's your process look like in learning these songs?
For me, I've gotten a lot better at this over the years, but I'll in a few of the songs, I was kind of a fan of the band before I had to learn all these songs, so I was familiar with a few of them, not necessarily note for note, but I had a little bit of a head start. But generally, what I'll do is I'll listen to the song. I don't really have a preference for starting with like an easier song versus a harder song. I'll kind of just pick one. Usually I'll start from the beginning in like the order of the set list. And I'll just kind of listen to the song once or twice, kind of get it, ingrained in the memory a little bit. And then I'll sit down and I'll kind of just go through it section by section. I'll start with the intro, and I'll kind of, I already have the feel of the song, the vibe of the song. So I'll start with the intro and I'll try to learn that, by itself first without going, going through the whole song without stopping. I'll just, start with the intro, learn that, and then move on to the verse, and then I keep going section by section, and I'll learn it as good as I can, as note for note as I can, and then I'll move on to like the chorus and the bridge and all that, and then I'll do that, and then I'll just do one song at a time, and then once I have the first song done, I'll just move on and do the same thing to the second song, and just sit here, and as long as it takes to get it nailed down, I'll do that. So that's a pretty simple, straightforward process. Nothing crazy. I just try to break down the song section by section and go for it. So
on tour, when you're at home, do you work out at all? Or
yeah, absolutely. I've been lifting pretty regularly for the last couple years now. I definitely try to work out and eat good as much as I can. I use like MyFitnessPal, and I use a couple apps, some calorie counter, macro counter apps, to really, really help, especially on tour. Because there's, when you're on tour, it's, there's, you're drinking a little bit and you're probably not eating the best food. But yeah, we definitely work out on tour, definitely work out at home. Got to stay in shape. That's very important, especially for, drummers and when we're using our legs and arms and calves and hip flexors and everything else, and even with your posture. So yeah, I definitely work out. Try to keep the cardio up so I have some stage energy and yeah, just squats, deadlifts, bench press, a lot of compound lifts, and yeah, man, I just keep on it. So
how do you guys manage to work out on tour?
It's always nice when the other bands that are out with us have guys that like to lift, and we'll try to get a group together and go to the gym. Our other guitar player, Evan, he lifts too, so me and him will usually always make it to the gym at least 2 or 3 times a week while we're on the road. Try to go every day, but sometimes there's not a gym within 50 miles, so it's a little tough. But yeah, we'll grab some of the other guys from the other bands if they do work out, and we'll just get a little group and we'll try to go and keep each other motivated while we're out there on tour. And it's a good way to bond too with other band members and get to know each other and stuff like that. And it's very cool. So yeah, we work out on tour, work out at home as much as we can. So
when you're off the road, when you're just hanging out at home, what outside of music, outside of the drums, what sort of things do you get up to? Do you like play video games?
I'm not much of a video game guy. Honestly, man, I try to spend quality time with family and friends, and that's super important. As I've gotten older, I've realized, definitely cherish your time with family and friends. So I try to do that, hang out with my parents and my family, my close friends, girlfriend, stuff like that. So I don't really do a whole lot, man, outside of working out and drumming. I'm kind of boring, to be honest with you. So, but yeah, this is pretty much just those two things.
Oh yeah, those are two solid things.
Yes, yeah, those two things keep me busy and keep me tired. So yes.
So how do you train kick speed? Let's say you have a song by a band and it's maybe 30, 40 BPM past what you're used to doing 16th note or 32nd note runs on your feet with. So how would you get your feet up to speed to be able to play that track?
For me, double bass and to playing the super fast metal stuff, that's kind of what I grew up on. Bands like Shadows Fall and Lamb of God and like the super, heavy double bass. For me, the thing that works is I'll just, kind of put on a click track up to the speed where I can play as fast as I can without sacrificing, without not being sloppy and all that. And I'll just kind of go there, and then I'll just keep it going as long as I can. And then once I'm comfortable, I'll bump it up 5 BPM, 10 BPM, whatever. And then I kind of have to work my way up using a click track. That's just what works for me, but there's, everyone's different. So, but yeah, generally speaking, I'll just put on a click and just sit there and just, go for it. And spend an hour or 2 hours trying to, bump up the BPM a little bit and just get to where I need to be. So.
Yeah, that's pretty much like the same thing that I do, and I find that a lot of guys have something similar to it. Like I always approach it from the standpoint of like I'll pick 4 different tempos, and I'll make sure that the 4th one is the fastest and like that it'll push me the furthest. Like I'll start at maybe 130 and then do a 150 and then maybe a 180, then a 200, and then I don't know, up to like 210-ish, but then just stay at that tempo performing 16th notes for as fast as possible. So it sounds like you're pretty much like a similar concept.
Yeah, exactly. It's pretty much the same thing. It's 5 to 10 BPM increments, and I'll just kind of bump it up when I get comfortable with that speed and keep going and going and going until I'm at where I need to be. So to be honest with you though, anymore it's like most of the bands I played with have all been pretty rely pretty heavily on double bass. So at this point, that's probably one of my stronger aspects of my playing is the double bass. So at this point, I'm fairly comfortable with playing different speeds of double bass. But yeah, if I have to, I will just sit down with a click and just go for it and bump it up in increments of 5 to 10 and just get as fast as I can.
So do you mess around with like the swivel technique at all or anything like that?
I'm generally a heel up guy. I've always been a heel up player. It's gotten a little bit lower over the years, but if I get going super fast, I'll notice kind of unintentionally my right foot will actually both will swivel just a little bit, and I can't really help it. It's not like quite a full swivel, but they'll get going sideways a little bit if I get going up to like 200 or 210. But generally, I'm just kind of a standard heel up player, so. Never could really play heel down or the heel toe is another one. I never really got into that, but that is pretty cool. I noticed you actually do a lot of that too, no?
Yeah, that's been a focus of mine the last couple of years. I found for the longest time like I was like that. I was just heel up always, and I didn't use a whole lot of ankle. It was mostly calf and like actually like raising my leg and sort of dropping it instead of like bouncing off the ankle, which in the long run made it really difficult for me to get up tempos. And then once I sort of figured that out and I sorted that out to the point where like it was more calf rebound off of each stroke, then I sort of wanted to just challenge myself and take myself to like the heel toe world to get more comfort just in the backside of my foot, I guess.
Yeah. I mean, the heel toe is awesome, and it's definitely a great way to play. And it can really help with like a lot of double strokes and triplets and real quick, like choppy type stuff. I would love to sit down and practice that. That's just one thing. I don't know, one thing I haven't got to yet, but yeah, maybe one day I'll be able to get that, and then I'll switch and be completely heel toe. But who knows? Until then, heel up. So, dude,
some guys are crazy with it. Like I'm mostly heel up, and the time I find that like some of the covers that I've done where I've done like a lot of like heel toe runs where I'm performing double strokes and like 16th notes for a while. That was honestly just because like. I don't know. I was showing off.
yeah, of course. And there's nothing wrong with that too. That's another thing. It's like you see a lot of guys, do like crazy stick tricks and like the Luke Holland type stuff. And I think that stuff's cool. I think there's nothing wrong with being a little flashy and showing off like that. And I think it's cool. It adds to the performance, and people like to see that. So there's nothing wrong with that, bro. I totally agree.
I did a Fit for a King cover where I did doubles throughout the entire chorus, but it was directly following one of my lesson videos where I broke down the heel toe technique. So I thought to myself, like, going into the next cover, I better like man up and like demonstrate what I'm talking about, put your money where your mouth is kind of thing.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. I actually think I saw that cover, man. That was awesome. I really enjoyed that. That was cool. I love that band too. So
hell yeah. Did you catch episode 1 with Jared?
I did, absolutely. That was very cool. Yeah, he I've never met those guys, never had any interaction with them, but they're another band I would love to tour with. So yeah, they're awesome.
Yeah, they're pretty sweet, and Jared's he's such a down to earth guy. It was really cool getting to chat with him.
Yeah. He seemed like a very cool dude. Very nice guy. Yeah, that's cool, man. I did catch that episode for sure.
So what types of warm-ups do you do before you go on stage?
So generally, what I'll do is I'll start, usually when the band before us is on, maybe about half an hour I'll take right before we play, and I'll kind of sit down with a pad, and I'll just keep it pretty simple. I'll just warm up with some single strokes. I'll move into some doubles. I'll move into some triplet stuff, and then just some kind of random patterns that I've made up over the years, just different sticking patterns with like accents and stuff. And I'll just kind of sit there and go, and then I'll do a little stretching for maybe about 10 minutes. I actually watched your stretching video the other day, and I started doing those, and I've definitely noticed a difference. So yeah, thank you. You updated my stretching routine.
Hell yeah.
Yeah.
I'm glad that helped for sure.
Yeah. But I generally keep it pretty simple. Just warm up with a pad in the venue or outside somewhere, just kind of by myself, and just kind of get in the zone, get warm, get loose, and then stretch a little bit, and I'm good to go, man. I'm pretty straightforward with that. So,
do you have anything that you do for like your footwork, or are you just on a practice pad?
Yeah, generally, again, depending on the venue and how much room I have and stuff, generally just a practice pad. For me, I notice if I warm up my hands, it definitely helps. If I warm up my feet, I don't notice a huge difference. For some reason, I can kind of sit down cold and kind of just go right into double bass with no problem. But I've been getting better at that, definitely getting better at like stretching the calves and the quads and hamstrings and everything too. So, generally it's mostly a hand warm up, but I'll warm up the feet too if I'm feeling it.
Do you have like a favorite rudiment?
Yeah, I do actually. I don't think it's necessarily a rudiment. It's kind of a pattern that I've found from again Jason Bittner from when he was in Shadows Fall. I have a DVD of his, and he's got different warm ups and stuff in there, and I don't know if it has a name, but it's just a really cool sticking pattern with like some accents, and it sounds really cool when you play it. And then when you play it on the kit, you can kind of split up the accents on like the toms and the splashes, and it's really cool. So yeah, it's just like a made up thing that I think he kind of made up, and I started doing that, incorporating that into my warm up. But for me, man, honestly, I just love double strokes. I try to replace some single strokes with double stroke rolls, like in the middle of a song. If I think like I can fit it there, I'll try to do that. But yeah, like I said, I have some made up patterns that I love to play and love to warm up with. So,
what do you think has helped you the most in becoming a better drummer over the years?
For me, it's been pushing yourself outside of your comfort zone. The times that I've had to really, really, really like bust my ass and like learn songs or like record a record or whatever, when you're like under the gun and you're under pressure and you got to get it done. And that's what's helped me kind of get to the next level and be able to play some things that I couldn't play before. And so yeah, kind of just really, 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 it's almost more of like a mental toughness too. Just sitting down and working hard and getting through it, and just repetitive. Just pushing yourself repeatedly outside of your comfort zone, and don't be afraid to like learn other styles too. I play metal, but I love watching guys like Eric Moore and practicing stuff like the linear grooves and the gospel chops and stuff like that, and even stuff like pop and a lot of pop rock. It's very simple, but just leaning back and being able to play in the pocket and then play more complex stuff and more double bass, and just being a versatile drummer all around, and being able to play different styles and stuff like that, and being able to lay back in the pocket and then being able to do a drum solo and show off and stuff like that. That's what's helped me the most. And then again, like kind of like I was saying earlier, kind of being somewhat of a showman without overdoing it. Of course, being fun to watch, and being good and playing as close to note for note while doing sick tricks and all that. That's very cool, and that's not something that every drummer does. And if you do, you'll definitely get work, trust me. So yeah, just kind of going outside of your comfort zone and learning as much as you can, just being open-minded. So
you think that like showmanship has helped you land gigs?
Yeah, I mean, definitely not just that, but being a solid drummer, kind of having like a look and the style and stuff too, and being the whole package, as I kind of like to say, and being talented, having a good, image and style and look to you, and just, and then of course just being yourself and being fun to be around. That's kind of what's kept me on tour is, I'm pretty laid back. I don't, go crazy and party a lot. And, that's goes a long way when you're living in a van with 4 or 5, 6 other dudes, for a month or 2 months on end. You got to be enjoyable to be around. So that's the other part of it. Aside from skill and the actual playing, just being able to live on the road and get along with everybody. That's huge. That goes a long way. So.
Yeah. So what's your definition of like the full or complete package? Or
I guess like kind of like what I was saying. It's like, just being as working on your skill. That's always probably going to be number one. That's super important. And then, just, I love bands like Motley Crue and you'll hear Nikki Sixx say, I don't want to see an accountant up on stage in a rock band. You don't want to see a guy with, like a cardigan or whatever, and just kind of like a normal quote unquote, mainly in like rock and metal. You kind of want to see, you want to see a show, and you want the band to put on a show, and you want to see, some production. And, for me, I know I like to see guys that, kind of look like they're in a band. They look like they're supposed to be in a band, and they all kind of have a similar look, and they put on a good show. They're skilled, all that stuff. So the whole package, man, just everything. Just, it's a lifestyle for sure. If you're gonna tour and do this, I just try to be as best I can in each aspect of being in a band. So.
Yeah, I agree with all of that. I've always said to like the projects that I've been in or the guys that I work with that like if we walk into a room and everybody doesn't know that we're a band, there's definitely a problem.
Exactly. That's basically exactly what I'm saying. Yeah, it's you got to kind of stand out a little bit and catch people's eye, even when you're, not on stage. So yeah, it's definitely the show and the production of things and the look and the visuals are just as important in my opinion as, being a skilled player and being able to really play and get up there and shred, in front of 10 people or 10,000, it doesn't matter. So treat every show the same and just put on the best show you can. And just, yeah, man, just try to be well-rounded, and keep getting gigs. So, yeah.
So who were some of your early influences?
When I started out, my dad was a drummer actually, so that's kind of what got me started. He was playing in bands down here in Florida, like cover bands in the 80s and stuff. And then when I got a little older, I really, really got into, like I mentioned earlier, Jason Bittner, Shadows Fall, Chris Adler, Lamb of God, and Mike Portnoy from Dream Theater and Avenged Sevenfold and the zillion other bands that he's in. He was a huge influence. I would play metal and Shadows Fall and just double bass and Dream Theater. I would learn all these different styles of metal and stuff and thrash and progressive and all this. And I just was really into guys like that. Nowadays, man, there's drummers on YouTube that I see that are like 4 years old and they drum circles around me. So I'm like, I don't know. I guess my influences are all these kids that are super good, so, but yeah.
What about band wise? Like what was some of the early bands that got you into metal? I guess specifically metalcore too, because it sounded like from a young age you were really exposed to metal.
Yeah, I mean, starting out, my favorite stuff, what I grew up on was, all the 80s, the hair metals and the Motleys and the super like arena rock stuff, Scorpions and Ozzy. And I actually play in an Ozzy Osbourne Black Sabbath tribute band as well down here in Tampa. And it's really cool because I get to do some 80s cover stuff, which I really love. And then I go with Famous and we do the metalcore stuff. So it's a nice balance. But as far as metalcore, I mean, I've always loved As I Lay Dying. I literally just saw them down here in Florida. Killswitch Engage, bands like that kind of got me into the more modernized metal sound. And then more recently, I would say, I love, I saw your cover of Low by Wage War. They're a great band. They're another band from Florida. They're from Ocala, actually. Oh man, I don't know. I like it all. If you play metalcore, chances are I'm probably gonna like it. So, or like post-hardcore, stuff like that. Like I said, Escape the Fate was a big influence in the post-hardcore metalcore style. So yeah, Asking Alexandria, you know, bands like that. I love most of those bands in that genre. I really enjoy. So
Yeah, right on. So do you prefer Escape with Craig or Ronnie?
the dreaded question.
Yeah,
You know
dude,
what?
I'm about to get you in so much trouble.
No. It's, you know what? I enjoy both. The first record they put out that with Situations on it and everything, classic record. I remember hearing that when I was in high school, and you know, a bunch of my friends got into them, and that record's great. Craig does a great job. You know, most people know he was in Bless the Fall beforehand, but yeah, Craig's awesome in Escape. Their newest record, I think, is killer. So yeah, I like both. I'm gonna cop out and say both and not choose one.
I'd have to agree with you. I think that I liked Escape a little bit better with Ronnie just because of the sound.
Yeah, for sure.
But
yeah, he's got a distinctive voice. You know, you can kind of tell when he's singing. So
yeah,
he stands out a little bit.
And I mean, that record was just like nothing else. Like, it was so incredible.
I know. That's what I mean. It's like that record is 11 years old now, 10, 11 years old, something like that. And it's like, I still will bump that record here and there. And I still I'll put it on with like friends in the car or something. And like, nobody ever is like, oh, turn this off. Like, everybody, you know, everybody enjoys that record. And even if you're a Craig fan or whatever, you know, it doesn't matter. It's a great record. And their newer stuff is great. I like it all. I hate to like pick sides because, you know, it's music. I just, if I like it, I enjoy it. It doesn't matter who's in the band or whatever, or, you know, what feud is going on. I just enjoy music. If I like it, I don't care. So
yeah, of course. There's without a doubt, both those bands are such unbelievable bands. I mean, Escape the Fate stuff too was really like among probably the top 5 bands when I was like a kid, and I was really first getting into metal. Not just with Ronnie, like the stuff after. Like, what was the they have a record, is it called This Is War or something War?
Yeah, this war is ours.
This War is ours. Yeah, that record was sick.
That's what I mean. That record's it's great. You know, it's like, I think that was like the first record that Craig did with the band, and yeah, it's awesome. You know, he's obviously got a little bit different style than Ronnie does, but I think they both sounded fine. They both sound great in Escape, and yeah, so yeah, but This War Is Ours is a great record. That's kind of when I started listening to them. This War Is Ours, and then the next record came out, and the one with like Gorgeous Nightmare on it and all that, and that's kind of when I started getting into them. So more with Craig. So
did you have you heard? I think it might have been today or yesterday. Falling in Reverse dropped a new song.
I saw it. I saw the little the little thing on my Facebook feed. I didn't get a chance to listen to it yet, but I will definitely check it out. So yeah, I actually one of the dudes that was in Black Tide, Zach Sandler. He used to play bass in Black Tide. He was playing in Falling in Reverse for a while. I'm not sure if he still is or not, but I know he was in that band for a little bit. So yeah.
Yeah, they've definitely gone with a different style. They've pretty much removed themselves with this latest release. It's pretty much outside of metalcore.
Right. You see, and you see a lot of bands, not necessarily removing themselves, but you see a lot of bands that were like used to be like really heavy, kind of, you know, still heavy, but a little bit, you know, more on the softer side. I don't want to say softer side, but you know, maybe toned down a little bit. I don't know the right word. Commercialized a little bit. You know what I'm saying?
I would say softer side. Like that's fair. You know, like it's either. I feel like it's one of two directions. And I was talking with someone earlier today about this. It's like they either bands now that once were heavy will either go more towards like a dad rock sound or like a rock, like alt rock. Active rock, you know, Sirius XM sound.
Yeah, active rock.
Yeah, active rock. That's like the best way to describe it. Or they'll go the other direction, which is
that's
like
a good way.
This like metalcore version of electronic with rap in it, and they're like, I don't know what the intention here is. The thing I don't get about that direction, and don't get me wrong, I have nothing against that genre, and I listen to like lots of rap artists. Like I don't have I'm not the metalhead who's like, I can't take it. Like I'm not that guy. But what I don't like is I don't like when bands go that direction, just because like I can't see the rap and hip hop and R&B fans coming into that genre and being like, oh, yo, this is sick. Like, it's metalcore
Right.
hip hop. Like, I don't feel like I feel like they're just, if anything, their original, like, solid fan base is just not as stoked with the music. And then they're not really, I can't see how they'd be even picking up newer fans, because the demographic that they're targeting with that sound is probably not going to touch metal at all, you know?
Right. Yeah, I think some bands, like you're saying, some bands kind of try to go maybe a little too far outside of the spectrum. You know, I totally understand, you know, being a little bit more, you know, like you said, active rock or experimenting or whatever, trying to find your sound. But there's kind of a line where you're either combining two styles or you're kind of going fully one direction and kind of alienating your fans that liked you for you know, when you were like a straight up metalcore band or a heavy band. But it's just balance. I think, you know, that happy medium of, you know, incorporating maybe some synth stuff or some more electronic with some rock. It's definitely doable. You know, you see bands do it all the time, but there's definitely a balance and a happy medium, I think, to keep, you know, your loyal fans there and keep your loyal fans happy, but also gain new fans that might not have heard of you before until you started stepping outside the box and experimenting with sounds. But I totally agree. It's just all about that balance, you know.
So, what did you think of Bring Me the Horizon's latest release?
Honestly, man, I loved it. I think it was great. I guess they're a good example. They're a band that can just go totally like one direction. I mean, they used to be like considered like deathcore, I guess, and now it's like you listen to the new stuff, and Ammo it's called Ammo, right? The newest record, and there's, you know, just very cool and very creative, I guess is the word to describe it, but super catchy and super like hooky and just very, you know, more like an active rock. But they even go a little further and add their own unique kind of sound into it. It's just very cool. I did enjoy that record very much.
Yeah, I agree. I really enjoyed Ammo. I was so surprised that I enjoyed it too. Just because, like,
right?
If you take it, I guess, like, it took me some time to step outside of my expectations for what I was hoping for from Bring Me the Horizon. And when I did that, and when I got to the point where I kind of listened to it like it was a new artist, I got super into it. And honestly, I have to say, like, of all the releases that have come out this year, which have been a ton, of all of them so far, I think that's probably my most played as of late.
Yeah, definitely. I would agree. I love that record. I started, I mean, I've liked Bring Me the Horizon since they put out, you know, like Chelsea Smile and all that the older, real heavy stuff. And, but I really got into them heavy around the Sempiternal era rather. And that was like 2013, I want to say. And then, man, that record still had a lot of the heavy stuff on it. But even the newer stuff on Ammo is, like I said, just got a very creative vibe to it, and it kind of, you know, you don't hear any other band that really sounds like that or that's putting that kind of, you know, music out. So it's really cool. I really enjoy it.
All right, man. Well, thank you for doing this with me today. It's been a blast chatting with you. Is there anything that you want to add before we wrap up here, that maybe some socials or where people can connect with you kind of thing?
Yeah, man. Well, absolutely. Thank you so much for having me. This has been a blast. I enjoyed talking to you about drums and touring and all things rock and roll and band related stuff. But yeah, you can find the band on Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, YouTube. It's pretty much just at Famous Last Words Band. You can search that. You'll find all of our stuff. You know, like I kind of had mentioned earlier, we got 3 singles out. New EP is coming out, drops May 17th. So you can go and pre-order it right now, or you can wait and grab the actual copy of it yourself when it drops. You can find me. I'm on Instagram at Cody on Drums. I'm always down to chat and talk about drums or music or anything. And yeah, you can follow us there and come out onto a show on the next tour. We got the tour dates. Everything's up on Facebook. So go check that out and give us a follow, give us a like, and come to a show and hang out.
I will include for all of you everything, all the social medias he just shouted out, his band, himself, and the tour dates. I will include in the description below. So be sure to click through, check some of that stuff out. If you've been in metalcore for a while and you haven't heard of this band, you need to go check them out. because they're awesome. And they're one of my original favorites because they come from the Joey Sturgis era. And for me, that whole sound is very like Asking Alexandria, old Of Mice and Men feel. And because of that, I've always been a huge fan. So go check them out. Thank you, Cody. And yeah, this has been a blast.
Thank you so much, man. It's been a pleasure. Talk to you again soon.
So that's been it for episode 5 of Line Check. I really hope you enjoyed my conversation with Cody Paige. If you want to connect with myself further, you want to connect with Cody further, as I already mentioned, all of those links are in the description below for you to check out there. If you want to support the channel because you really enjoy content like this, then you can check out my merch link or my Patreon link in the description below as well. Thank you so much for watching this video, and I will see you all very soon with something new.